Part 10. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 91. The ancient mirror fell, revived on its own, exerted its ultimate power, and all the ancient kings in all directions perished. What kind of power is that? The mirror light falls, the heaven and the earth are trembling, and everything will wither. In the eastern wasteland, all the ancient kings who came from the ancestral lands of royal families were shocked. Isn't this ancient mirror of the great Dao an ownerless thing? Why did he suddenly revive and kill all four ancient kings? And the scene that happened next seemed to confirm their suspicions, and caused all the creatures in the entire eastern wasteland to fall into an unparalleled shock. Even the ancient forbidden place that no one dared to set foot in the eastern wasteland was no longer peaceful, and there were eyes that shook the world. The mirror in the void is ringing, casting down thousands of rays of fairy light, falling on the boundless land. The supreme God contained in the ancient mirror seems to have revived, driving the void mirror into the sky. Billions of divine rays circulate, ancient mirrors reflect the void, and the laws of heaven and earth follow. There are ancient scrolls unfolding in the boundless void, like an ancient universe evolving, and the breath of creation is circulating. Boom! The scroll unfolded, shaking the sky, and the breath of eternal time was circulating. And as the scroll unfolds, it is an ancient period that has been covered in dust for millions of years. It is a supreme legend of the human race that is both evocative and evocative. It was a time filled with darkness and despair. There are several ancient restricted areas in the vast universe. In every restricted area, there sleeps the legendary ancient supreme being. They were all emperors and emperors in the past, but in order to break the legendary path to immortality, to live forever and become immortals, they all chose to cut themselves off to the extreme realm, seal their bodies with their divine sources, and sleep in the restricted area. Every ancient supreme being sleeping in the restricted area was an invincible strongman who stood at the top of the extreme realm in the past. However, even if these ancient supreme beings choose to sleep, they still cannot suppress the passage of their own lives. Therefore, every eternity, they will wake up from their slumber, wash the world with blood, absorb the life essence of all spirits, and delay their own aging. Every time a forbidden city supreme is born, it will cause a huge rain of blood in the universe. To all spirits, it was the most terrifying dark turmoil in the world. Because the Forbidden Zone Supreme was born, no one could stop them. This is especially true for the human race. Wherever the Forbidden City Supreme passes, hundreds of millions of people will become blood eaters and die miserably. And the life shown in the scroll is even more amazing. More than one ancient supreme being was born, and more than one forbidden area rioted. Those were the darkest years in history, which made people feel despair from the bottom of their hearts. But in this life, at the most desperate moment for thousands of human beings, one person stood up. He demonstrated the Tao with the boundless void, climbed to the pinnacle of the Jida, cast the Jida Emperor's void mirror, and named him the Great Emperor of the Void. His existence is like a ray of light in the endless darkness, tearing apart the darkness and bringing hope and light to all human beings. The Void Emperor has been fighting all his life. His life was iron-blooded and glorious, magnificent and tragic. Those were the darkest years in history. The Great Emperor of the Void fought alone for a lifetime, and no one could stand by his side. However, with his own strength, he actually created a bright future for the human race, and created hope and a future. His whole life, he has been fighting against the resurrected ancient supreme beings in the restricted area. He has put down more than one dark turmoil, and has even gone deep into the restricted area to intimidate the supreme beings in the restricted area, making them afraid to be born. It was the most difficult period in human history. The Great Emperor of the Void was alone, fighting with several supreme beings, and their blood was spilled in the universe. It's hard to imagine what a dark world it was. But the Void Emperor, relying on his own power, shouldered all the suffering and darkness, and finally killed more than one ancient supreme being and put down all the turmoil. His achievements are enough to be recorded in the annals of history and shine throughout the ages. What kind of scene is that in the scroll? An ancient emperor, with a void mirror above his head and a hazy body, surrounded by billions of strands of chaotic energy. He faced all the darkness alone, shouldered all the darkness of eternity with his own strength, leaving only a majestic figure for all sentient beings. He single-handedly, with his own blood and life, calmed down all the darkness and turmoil, suppressed everything, and restored peace to the human race. The ancient mirror of the void is clanging and trembling, as if recalling the supreme emperor of the void in the past. And the hundreds of millions of people in the eastern wasteland, after witnessing the scene in the scroll, could not suppress the shock in their eyes. In the past, our human race had such a great emperor come to this world to protect the human race and calm down all the darkness and turmoil. The great emperor of the void is worthy of praise and respect. This is the ancient great emperor of our human race, the great emperor of the void. At this moment, hundreds of millions of human beings in the eastern wilderness territory are all excited. Following the magnificent paintings, they understand the life of the great emperor of the void, and remember the supreme emperor of the human race in the past. Everything. It comes from the heart and comes from feelings. Because everything the emperor of the void has done is worthy of being remembered by all living beings. His achievements will shine forever. Even if they are separated by millions of years, they are destined to be engraved in the hearts of every human being. People throbbed and resonated with it. The scroll slowly dissipated, and the void mirror hung in the 9-layer sky, hanging down thousands of chaotic energies, shining for eternity. However, all the souls in the eastern wasteland were immersed in the influence of the great emperor of the void when the shock came. A slightly indifferent laughter suddenly sounded between heaven and earth. Ha ha, a Jideo ancient mirror? It's interesting. I didn't find it when I came to the universe in the past, but I didn't expect to see it now. Maybe it contains some secrets from millions of years ago, which is worth exploring. The laughter suddenly sounded, but it caused all the world to tremble and resonate with it. The laughter was filled with endless coldness, making all living beings who heard it feel cold in their hearts. This being who made laughter, although he has never mentioned his identity, everyone in the world can guess it. Who can once rule the universe and unify an era? Only the emperors and emperors of the past. And those true emperors of the extreme realm have all fallen. The only thing left behind is the ancient supreme being who fell from the extreme realm. The appearance of the void mirror actually aroused the desire of an ancient supreme being to explore the secrets of millions of years ago from the void mirror. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 92. What happened millions of years ago that caused the entire ancient history to be hidden and buried? This question, in the eyes of all beings in the world, is undoubtedly the biggest mystery in the world. Even if he is as powerful as the ancient emperor of the past, who can attack the 9 heavens and explore the 9 netherworlds, all the heavens and worlds cannot stop his footsteps, and he still cannot know the answer to this riddle. But now, there is a Jideo emperor's weapon appearing in the world, which is suspected to be the weapon of the human emperor from millions of years ago. Faced with such changes, even the ancient supreme being who was standing in the restricted area, watching the ups and downs of the world with a cold eye, and only seeking to become an immortal, could not help but be moved. He woke up from his deep sleep, wanted to capture the void mirror, and explore this issue. Answer. Boom. As soon as the indifferent laughter fell, a godlike aura erupted between the heaven and the earth, shaking the sky and the earth, sweeping across the universe, and the momentum spread out for hundreds of millions of miles, making the entire eastern wilderness continent tremble. At this moment, the great avenues of heaven and earth were shaking, and the bodies of all living beings in the eastern wasteland were trembling involuntarily. It was fear and throbbing coming from the depths of their souls. The heaven and earth shook, and the laws roared. A crystal jade hand made of endless laws, majestic and majestic, covering hundreds of millions of miles, descended from the nine heavens, and covered the void mirror, trying to capture it in hand. An ancient supreme being standing in the restricted area moved. He did not take action personally, and his true body was still sealed by the divine source and remained in the restricted area forever. It's just a ray of thought that stirs up the heaven and earth, commands all laws, and captures the void mirror. The ancient supreme being was moved, and the scene was really terrifying. The whole world seemed to be falling into doom, and all the spirits in the eastern wasteland were prostrate on the ground, unable to move. This is the power of the ancient supreme being. Without moving his true body, he can dominate the world and kill any existence in the world with just a flick of his mind. Ancient Supreme. Ji Changqing gritted his teeth and stood up against the shocking pressure. He looked at the void mirror in the sky, his eyes full of worry. This is an ancient supreme being. It is the emperor who ascended to the extreme path in the past. Now even if he falls from the extreme realm, his strength and realm are beyond the imagination of all living beings. Facing the ancient supreme's attack, can the ancestors' void mirror block it? Above the nine heavens, the void mirror seems to have noticed the terrifying coercion that shook the heavens, and the earth was trembling violently. Above the mirror, the stars and rivers in the universe were trembling, and wisps of imperial power rippled out, fighting against the supreme power. The void mirror glowed, and the ancient divine mansion contained within seemed to revive. Now, I want to take control of the void mirror and fight against the ancient supreme being. Boom! The void mirror trembled, and the entire void in the sky was shattered. The mirror turned upside down, facing the crystal jade hand hanging down from the sky, and shook out billions of strands of chaotic energy. The scene was so astonishing. Tens of thousands of feet of chaos poured out from the void mirror, like admiration hanging from the sky. It hung upside down and rushed into the sky. A vast expanse of white, like a river hanging from the sky, drowned everything. This scene is horrifying to the extreme. Thousands of chaotic lights are rolling upwards, a vast expanse of white, like thousands of Milky Ways rolling backwards. It is almost mind-breaking. All the spirits in the eastern wasteland were shaken. The power emitted by the void mirror was too astonishing. Any ray of chaotic energy was enough to kill the current Holy Lord. Now that so much chaotic light has emerged and rushed into the sky, the power is simply unimaginable. Boom! The endless chaotic light collided with the crystal jade hand, suddenly turning the sky into chaos, as if an ancient universe was born and collapsed there. The light of law and the light of chaos surged together, turning the place into chaos. There was nothingness. Even powerful monks with clairvoyance cannot see through what is happening in the nine heavens. They could only feel two extremely powerful auras colliding and annihilating in the nine heavens. Between heaven and earth, the ancient supreme spoke again, his voice still indifferent, but with a little surprise. It seemed that things were beyond his control. The void mirror blocked it? The void emperor is invincible. Blocked, blocked. Many monks of the Ji family looked up at the sky, clenched their fists, and the surprise in their eyes was beyond words. Although they could not see through the result of the collision above the nine heavens, the void mirror was still hanging there intact. This is enough to prove that just now this ancient supreme's attack did not work. But then, the indifferent voice sounded again in the world, and the joy that had just risen in everyone's heart seemed to be poured with a basin of cold water, and it instantly cooled down. Has the divine palace contained in the ancient weapons been revived? It can withstand my thoughts. It's interesting. There is indeed something extraordinary about the imperial weapons from millions of years ago. The voice seemed to be admiring, but it also had a feeling that everything in the world and the universe were under control. It was like, although the void mirror blocked the ancient supreme being's falling spiritual thoughts, it only made him a little surprised. Everything is still not out of his control. Come. The ancient supreme one spoke again, like an order from heaven, thousands of waves roared, and an even more powerful power rose up, sweeping across the world. The heaven and earth were trembling, all kinds of ways were wailing, and all kinds of incredible visions appeared in the void. The supreme momentum, overwhelming the 10 directions and penetrating all the heavens. The ancient supreme being is serious and takes action again to capture the void mirror in his hands. When the Supreme One takes action, who can resist? Even the ultimate divine soldiers must bow. There will be no more surprises this time, the ancient void mirror will be captured by the Supreme. It is sad and lamentable that the human race finally had an imperial weapon that truly belonged to them, but now it is about to fall into the hands of the Supreme Being. The ancient kings of all the ancient tribes spoke one after another, with a hint of relief in their voices, and a hint of gloating. When the Supreme Being takes action, who in the world can resist? Not even the ultimate divine weapons. The human race is really, unfortunately, an imperial weapon that truly belongs to the human race has just come out, and it will be snatched away by the Supreme Being. But for all the ancient races, this is indeed good news. If the human race suddenly holds an imperial weapon in hand, then the status there will be changes, and even the ancient tribes have to be a little wary of it. But now, all fears will no longer exist. The ancient imperial weapons of the human race will soon return to the hands of the Supreme. The hope of the human race, it will no longer exist. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened to everyone. The G clan. After the Void Stone cracked, the shadow of the Void Emperor that appeared along with the flying fairy light seemed to feel the sweeping force. The supreme idea of heaven and earth seemed to have awakened from a deep sleep, undergoing unimaginable changes. And the wisp of blood stained on the red gold of phoenix blood also became more brilliant and brighter. In the end, the wisp of blood unexpectedly emerged from the red gold phoenix blood, detached and merged into the shadow of the Void Emperor. Boom! At this moment, the aura of the ancient emperor fully exploded, and the shadow of the Void Emperor became a little more solid again. It was as if he had traveled across the long river of time, reappearing a trace of the majesty of the Void Emperor in the past. The aura of the ancient emperor was fully emitted, sweeping through the sky and causing chaos in the world. At this moment, not only the entire eastern wasteland was trembling, but even the entire land was trembling. The Tianxing River also trembled with it, as if it could not resist the power of the emperor and was about to fall from the 9 heavens. The shadow of the Void Emperor finally moved. He climbed up to the sky and looked at all directions. There is nothing that can do it. Blocked, even the supreme thoughts that spread across the world seemed to be suppressed and became obscure. But the shadow of the Void Emperor actually broke through all obstacles and shackles, soared into the sky, and even suppressed the supreme thoughts. They were shaken to pieces, the whole world was leveled, and the whole world was conquered. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 93. The Phantom of the Void Emperor revived and ascended to the sky. The changes that occurred instantly shocked the world, and everyone in the world was shocked. The momentum is really terrifying, the aura of the ancient emperor is spreading. What shocked everyone even more was that even the supreme thoughts that originally spread across the world were suppressed and even penetrated. There is no way to stop the supreme and immortal aura exuded by the shadow of the Void Emperor. How can this be? The idea of the Supreme Being was defeated. Oh my God, could it be that the ancient emperor of the human race has revived? It has not revived, it is just a shadow, probably activated by this supreme thought, reappearing a trace of the majesty of the ancient emperor. Many ancient kings in the eastern wasteland were shocked. The sudden change in the shadow of the Void Emperor was beyond their imagination. You received shocking points at 31,254 from Ji Changqing. You received shocking points at 15,441 from Gu Changting. You receive shocking points at 24,111 from Zishenzing. Did you receive from, the shock points are at 999999. Looking at the sudden increase in shocking points, Qin Mu's face didn't show much joy. He knew that the Supreme Being hidden in the dark was probably a little shocked by the movements of the Void Emperor's shadow. But it was just a hint of shock. The opponent will definitely continue to take action, and the phantom of the Void Emperor will be unable to stop his steps. In order to truly intimidate this ancient Supreme Being and make him fearful and retreat to the restricted area, other deterrents must be used. Calculating the time, it should be almost done. Qin Mu looked at the sky with his hands behind his hands, looking through the distant sky and into the vast universe. Before, he had gone deep into the universe and arranged this ancient mirror of the void. But this was just the first backup plan laid by Qin Mu. That's all. He knew that the emergence of a true imperial soldier, the void mirror, today would definitely cause shock in the world. He had even anticipated that the ancient Supreme Being might take action. In this case, how could Qin Mu not leave behind a backup plan? How to prevent these possible changes? The supreme idea spread all over the nine heavens was shattered by the momentum emanating from the shadow of the Void Emperor. And just as Qin Mu expected, the shadow of the Void Emperor moved, shattering the supreme idea. Although the ancient Supreme Being was briefly moved and shocked, but then a ray of anger rose. Snort. The indifferent voice was filled with a hint of coldness and anger. Faced with these changes one after another, even the ancient Supreme Being couldn't help but get angry. Who is he? He once rose up in the glorious world, killed all the heroes in the world, and aspired to the supreme throne. The position. He once ruled the ancient universe for tens of thousands of years, ruled the world, ruled all the heavens and all realms, and no one dared to disobey. Now, although he cut himself off with a knife and fell from that realm, his strength and realm are still the same as those of all living things and spirits. It is incomprehensible and unimaginable. He still has the supreme majesty and momentum of the past. Now, he is repeatedly blocked when capturing a G-Dao Emperor soldier. This simply makes his majesty damaged and his face loses luster. The supreme anger makes the heaven and earth eclipse. Everyone in the universe was shocked. An unimaginable majestic momentum penetrated the heaven and earth, rising from the forbidden place deep in the eastern wasteland. It was the aura of an ancient Supreme Being, supremely noble, and represented the supreme Taoist fruit of the past. Is proof that he once ruled an era. The ancient Supreme Being was angry and no longer fought with a ray of thought. He seemed to be resurrecting his true body, leaving the restricted area, and pacifying everything. The majesty of the ancient Supreme Being could not be challenged. However, just when this man was severely the ancient Supreme Being shrouded in divine flowers and celestial light was about to move out. When he stepped out of the restricted area, he suddenly stopped. He raised his head, and looked at the sky with a gaze that seemed to be able to penetrate the world, with a trace of doubt. Because, the phantom of the Void Emperor, after penetrating a ray of his thoughts, did not stop at all, but continued to soar into the sky and entered the boundless universe. It was as if the original goal of the phantom was not at all this ray of supreme divine thought, but another purpose. This ray of supreme divine thought was only penetrated because it blocked his way forward. Buzz, the void mirror also clanged, and the immortal as the brilliance flowed, it also followed the shadow of the Void Emperor, entering the boundless universe and the brilliant river of stars. The five domains, the cold and dead outer space of the universe. The shadow of the Void Emperor rushed into the sky, and did not it stopped when it was too far away, and then it was like an eternal fairy light, cast into a certain dead space. Whoa! The void mirror glowed, emitting hundreds of millions of fairy lights, completely illuminating that space. Strange changes. A hazy ancient coffin appeared in the originally empty and dead space, and it became clearer and clearer. The shadow of the Void Emperor arrived here and fell into the ancient coffin. Inside, Separated by endless void formations, the traces of the ancient coffin are obscured. Has it not manifested itself in the universe? In the forbidden land of the eastern wasteland, the ancient Supreme King raised his eyes to the sky and looked into the cold universe. He could feel that in the place illuminated by the void mirror, there was endless power of void spreading. That ancient coffin, I'm afraid it has always existed there, but it was covered by the endless void formations, so it never manifested in the world. The light emitted by the void mirror became more intense, even lighting up the entire dark sky. The terrifying fluctuations could not escape the detection of the powerful monks. In an instant, the Eastern Barren Territory, the Nanling Territory, the Western Desert Territory, the Northern Zhou Territory, and the Zhongzhou Territory. In the 5 major regions, countless eyes were all visible. Plunging into the depths of the cold universe, I saw the ancient coffin manifested in silence and nothingness. Because the power of the formation had not dissipated, the ancient coffin looked a bit hazy and unreal, as if it was far away from the present. Eternal years do not belong to this world. But from this ancient coffin, there is a faintly strong pressure permeating the air, and there are even immortal traces of the great road engraved on it, exuding the supreme divine power to suppress the eternal universe. There is an ancient coffin in the universe. Whose coffin is this? Buried in the cold universe. I saw the void mirror wailing. Could it be that the human race's void emperor was buried in this coffin? In the 5 major domains, one after another looked into the depths of the universe, full of surprise and shock. An ancient coffin, covered by endless formations, drifted alone in the cold depths of the universe for eternity. Whose is this coffin? Who is buried in the coffin? Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 94. The void mirror trembled, and billions of strands of fairy flowers hung down, completely illuminating the cosmic space. The ancient coffin, which had been drifting for eternity in endless darkness and silence, finally became clear and revealed to the world. The ancient coffin was made of unknown materials. It was vicissitudes of life and ancient. Although it was only a few feet long, it seemed to have carried countless years. The vast earth and the boundless starry sky are nothing compared to this corner of the coffin. It seems to have condensed the past and present, running through millions of years, and has once again manifested itself in the world and is displayed in front of the world. Endless terrifying pressure emanates from the ancient coffin, spreading across the universe. Even if many saints in the 5 realms just cast their eyes over it, they would feel it was extremely dazzling, and they could not help but have tears falling from their eyes. An ancient coffin was buried in the cold and boundless universe. There was a terrifying and evil aura flowing around it, which made people's hearts tremble and frighten them. Is the ancestor of my Ji family, the great emperor of the void, buried in this coffin? Ji Changqing looked at this ancient coffin that stretched across the cold universe, his heart trembled, and his eyes couldn't help but feel a little sore. Even though he knew that even the most powerful people could not survive forever, he witnessed the Void Emperor being buried in the darkness and coldness with his own eyes. In the universe, people are still sad and feel endless sadness. This coffin probably belongs to the Void Emperor, because there are endless void formations surrounding the coffin. And the shadow of the Void Emperor stained with the Emperor's blood, also rushed into the ancient coffin. The ancient mirror of the void of the Jida was also trembling towards this ancient coffin. Everything was proved. Buried in this coffin was the distant ancestor of the Ji family, millions of human beings. The supreme being from years ago, the great emperor of the void. Bury his true body in the boundless universe with the remains of an emperor? Ha ha, that's it. The cold and indifferent laughter sounded deep in the forbidden area of the eastern wasteland. It's just the remains of an ancient emperor. So what if it reappears in the universe a million years later? After all, the true body has passed away. His glory has also gone with the wind. In today's world, ancient supreme beings like him are the real masters of heaven and earth. However, just as this ancient supreme being is preparing to take action again, he will capture all the void mirrors and ancient coffins. The scene that happened next in the cold universe before him made him stop unknowingly. In the cold universe, in the boundless void, in that ancient coffin, endless power suddenly burst out. 1, 2, 3. 3 ancient emperor-level auras erupted at the same time, entangled with each other, and destroyed each other. It was like 3 living emperors and emperors descended into this world to compete for supremacy in this life. 3 ancient emperor-level auras erupted at the same time. A coffin emerged. Such changes shocked the world, and even caused the ancient supremes to stop their movements, wondering what happened. If the Void Emperor of the human race was really buried in this coffin, why are there 3 people at this moment? A completely different kind of polar fluctuations came from the coffin. The ancient coffin shook more and more violently, and the 3 emperor-level powers were fluctuating and competing with each other. The ancient star field near the ancient coffin was all affected by the power of these 3 ancient emperors. The aura of power permeated the universe, causing the stars in the universe to tremble, and many stars were turned into ashes by this power. Although the 3 powers in the ancient coffin are equally supreme, they are completely different. And 2 powers seem to belong to the same front, jointly confront and fight against the third force. That power is the power of the void of the ancestor Void Emperor. The power of the void of the ancestors is competing with the other 2 supreme beings for supremacy. Ji Changqing's voice trembled, and he seemed to have guessed something. In the picture just projected by the void mirror, the Void Emperor had been fighting all his life. Until the last moment of his life, he was still fighting against the 2 terrifying ancient supreme beings from the restricted area. However, the void ancient mirror did not project the result of the last battle. Now, there are 3 supreme powers permeating the peerless ancient coffin. One belongs to the Void Emperor, and the other 2 belong to those 2. The ancient supreme. Could it be said that until his death, the Void Emperor was fighting against those 2 supreme beings, holding them back for life? Even after 1,000,000 years, this imperial war still has not ended? The scene that happened next. It seemed to confirm Ji Changqing's guess. The ancient coffin was shaking, and the lid of the coffin was shaken open, spilling out thousands of chaotic energy. After millions of years, the coffin was opened. It seemed that this decisive battle that had lasted for millions of years was finally about to come to an end. Curtain. Boom. The coffin lid opened, and 2 majestic bodies filled with endless chaotic energy fell from the coffin. The supreme aura of the Supreme Deo emanated from these 2 bodies, shaking the 9 heavens and the earth. Millions of years, I won't give up. Even before death, he will drag us on the road together, empty. Ancient and majestic spiritual fluctuations emanated from these 2 majestic bodies, to frighten and shock all sentient beings. These 2 bodies have long since lost their life fluctuations, and this fluctuation of spiritual thoughts is nothing more than an immortal obsession that remains in these 2 bodies. 2 bodies, surrounded by chaotic energy, fell in the starry sky. Endless fairy lights emerged, covering the 2 bodies. They are transforming and disintegrating. In the end, these 2 majestic and terrifying bodies turned into immortal light and disappeared into the vast universe. The final result was that the Void Emperor won. The 2 fallen ancient supreme beings are the best proof. Boom, the 2 corpses fell, and the coffin lid closed again, blocking all energy. The power of the endless void filled the air, and this ancient coffin set out again, drifting into the cold and dark depths of the universe. Faced with this scene, the ancient supreme being in the restricted area remained silent. 2 corpses that had existed in the past fell from the ancient coffins and transformed into Tao. This scene not only shocked all the beings in the world, but also shocked him, making him feel a little afraid in his heart. That ancient coffin is really too evil. The Void Emperor of the human race is also extremely evil. Who knows if he has other means left? Although this ancient supreme being still had the belief of invincibility in his heart, he firmly believed that he was the strongest in the world, and no means could harm him, not even the trap set up by the great emperor of the human race millions of years ago. However, now this supreme being is hesitating, seeming to be weighing and thinking about something. After waiting for such a long time, now it is finally time to wait for the right time for the immortal road to open. Isn't this the moment you have been waiting for forever? Before that, I want to keep my peak combat power intact, and everything must make way for the great plan of the immortal road. The whisper of the ancient supreme revealed a secret that could shock the ages. He was not afraid of anything. At his level, his Taoist heart was already as strong as iron, and he considered himself invincible. It was just for the sake of becoming an immortal that was about to begin. On the way, he needs to maintain his peak condition to gain the opportunity to become an immortal. Compared with this, everything else is insignificant. Therefore, after seeing the two supreme corpses falling from the ancient coffins, he realized that the backhand left by the Void Emperor of the Zunran race might cause him to bleed or even be injured. In the end, the ancient supreme being was wary and did not take any forceful action. Instead, he concealed his aura and hibernated again. However, it is naturally impossible for all living beings in the world to know what this ancient supreme being is thinking. They just know that when the corpses of the two supreme beings killed by the former Void Emperor of the human race fell from the ancient coffins, even the ancient supreme he was shocked and dormant again, not daring to make any more moves. The name of the great Emperor of the Void resounded throughout the 5 realms and shocked all souls. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 95. Has even the ancient Supreme One receded? The power of the Void is truly unimaginable. Is this the ancient Emperor of the human race? Nice. Millions of years ago, there were such heroes in the human race. Even if they die, they have to drag two supreme beings together on the road. The majesty and strength of the human Void Emperor are really unimaginable. At this moment, in the 5 major domains, all the creatures who witnessed the scene happening in the starry sky outside the domain trembled and fell into unparalleled shock. In the ancient coffins, 2 emperor corpses fell, shocking the ancient world that still exists in the world. Supreme. What kind of majesty is this? The ancestor of our clan, the great emperor of the Void. Watching the peerless ancient coffin set off again, drifting towards the dark and cold depths of the universe, many G-clan monks clenched their fists and their eyes turned red. Everyone in the world only saw the peerless grace and invincible spirit of Emperor Void, but only the monks of the G-clan saw the loneliness and hardship of Emperor Void. A lifetime of bloody battles, fighting alone in the wilderness, in the dark years, carrying everything alone, facing all the darkness of eternity alone. What kind of loneliness would that be? If it were anyone else who came here, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to withstand this desperate, heavy pressure that makes them unable to breathe. Only the great Emperor of the Void can shoulder all these sufferings by himself. His whole life was spent in battle. Old friends, beauties, and even former rivals on the imperial road. His contemporaries were all dead, and he was the only one left, fighting with all the pain. From birth to old age, his long life is filled with endless loneliness. This is a sad song. Until his death, the turmoil had not subsided, and the Void Emperor was still fighting. He went on the road alone, fighting against 2 supreme ancient beings. Until the end of his life, the battle was not over. It lasted for millions of years, and the result is only now known. The glorious imperial war that lasted for millions of years came to an end, and the ancient coffin containing the Emperor of the Void set out again, going away alone and entering the dark and dead depths of the universe. Millions of years of history have broken, and time has erased everything. But no one in this world knows the name of Void, and has forgotten his glory and achievements. But the Void Emperor did not forget his mission. He is still fighting. Fight to protect the human race. Fight to protect all living things. Congratulations to the Emperor of the Void. Ji Changqing's eyes were red, and he roared, facing the direction of the ancient coffin of Emperor Void, and sincerely, he knelt down respectfully and sent his distant ancestor away. Congratulations to the Emperor of the Void. The people of the Ji clan all knelt down with Ji Changqing, roaring to the sky, as if they were seeing off the Supreme Emperor of the Void. Every member of the Ji clan knelt down willingly. They all knelt, for I am proud that I have the blood of the Void Emperor flowing in my body. There was silence between heaven and earth. All living beings are immersed in the shock brought by the Void Emperor. At this moment, Qin Mu was taking stock of his gains. This time, I made a lot of money. Looking at the huge number on the system panel, Qin Mu couldn't help but let out a breath. Before, in order to arrange this Void secret realm, Qin Mu spent all the more than 10 million shock points on his body, leaving nothing left. But now, the Void Mirror and the mysterious ancient coffin appear one after another, and even with the cooperation of the ancient Supreme Being who has never appeared. Qin Mu has harvested nearly 30 million shock points crazily. Now the shock points on the system panel, there are 29 million. But this number continues to increase. Breaking through 30 million is only a certainty. The Void appeared, the 5 regions were shocked, and even the ancient Supreme retreated, and finally provided Qin Mu with 10,000 shock points. This transaction is definitely the secret realm where Qin Mu has made the most money, and made the most money since he built the secret realm. There is still one last step left, and the Void secret realm will come to a complete end. Qin Mu raised his head and looked at the Void mirror hanging in the starry sky of the universe, with a smile on his face. The ancient coffin containing the Void Emperor has gone away. And the Void mirror will also fulfill its final mission. Buzz. Above the 9 heavens, the Void mirror trembled, as if it was seeing off the great Emperor of the Void. When the ancient coffin in which the Void Emperor was buried disappeared into the depths of the boundless galaxy, the Void mirror fell from the starry sky and returned to the Ji clan. The blood of the great Emperor of the Void flows in your bodies, but you do not have the inheritance of the great Emperor. The great Emperor of the Void has passed away, but the inheritance cannot be cut off. I will teach you the ancient scriptures created by Emperor Void. I hope you can inherit the bloodline and inheritance of Emperor Void and reproduce the glory of the past. The ancient divine thoughts rippled out from the Void mirror. Along with them, there was the inheritance of the Supreme Ancient Sutra, the Void Ancient Sutra. The Great Road is as measured, the sect of all things, harmony with light and dust, the supreme secret of Void, was transmitted by the Void mirror, and turned into eternally brilliant talismans, arranging and dancing in the Void. In the end, these talismans were all combined together, and turned into a fairy book filled with the atmosphere of the Void. On the sutra, 4 characters were written in ancient human script, the Ancient Void Sutra. Although the Supreme Emperor of the Void has passed away, he left the Ancient Void Sutra and his own inheritance in the human world. The ancient scriptures of the great Emperor created by our distant ancestors. Ji Changqing took the Void ancient scripture with both hands, and his palms even trembled a little. He even couldn't believe it was true. A complete ancient scripture of the great Emperor. What does that mean? With the ancient Void scripture here, the cultivation of many monks in the Ji family will experience rapid growth. The overall strength of the Ji family will also rise rapidly. Even the injuries he suffered may be able to find a solution in the Void ancient scripture. The Emperor's inheritance will be coveted by Xiao Xiao. I will control this place and shock the world. The Void mirror clanged, emitting hundreds of millions of rays of fairy light, tearing the Void apart and piercing the sky. The ancient mirror slowly disappeared into the Void, but the wisps of Ji-Dao aura continued to emanate, seeming to intimidate and warn some people with ulterior motives not to have thoughts that they shouldn't. Ji Changqing watched the Void mirror disappear in the Void, looking at the world that had returned to silence. he was pious in his heart and swore an oath to the endless void in front of him. My ancestor, you can rest assured. I will lead the entire G family to inherit your legacy and protect the human race. Complete the mission of my G family. The bloodline of the Void Emperor will not be cut off. The inheritance of the Void Emperor will not be cut off. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 96. The ancient coffin containing the great emperor of the void has drifted into the dark and cold depths of the universe. The void mirror has also converged all the immortal flowers and fluctuations, hiding in the void. Silence returned to heaven and earth, as if nothing had ever happened. But all living beings in the world are still immersed in the shock brought by the void emperor, and they are unable to extricate themselves for a long time. The shock and ripples caused by the appearance of the void emperor have even spread beyond the eastern wasteland to the vast 5 regions. Among them, the human race in the eastern wasteland is the worst. In the past few months, the humans of the eastern wasteland have felt as if they were living in a dream. The ruthless empress, the great holy body, and the beginningless emperor, traces of this supreme being of the human race continue to appear in the world. Now, another great emperor of the void has come and manifested in the world, even frightening away an ancient supreme being who was in the restricted area. This has never happened before in the past hundreds of thousands of years of human history. I don't know how many human beings have rekindled hope and feel that the future of the human race is no longer dark and bumpy, but has become full of light and hope. And this is all brought about by the appearance of an ancient emperor who respected the human race. Especially, now the human race finally has its own G-Dao Emperor weapon. Although the void mirror is hidden in the void, it is no longer manifest. But the human race in the Eastern Barren Territory all know that this G-Dao ancient mirror is in the Eastern Barren Territory at this moment, hanging in the void. The existence of the void mirror is not just a piece of G-Dao imperial weapon. It is hope and light, and it is a powerful weapon for the human race to intimidate all races in the ancient times. With the void mirror here, at the very least, the ancient tribes in the eastern wasteland would no longer dare to treat the human race as they did in the past. The void mirror is like a supreme deterrent, hanging in the hearts of all the creatures of the ancient clan. Now, our human race in the eastern wasteland really has hope. In the G clan, Yunruoxi looked at the many G clan monks whose faces were full of joy, and smiled from the heart. With the inheritance of the Void Emperor, and the existence of the Void Mirror, the G clan will undoubtedly become the mainstay among the human races in the Eastern Barren Territory, and a powerful guarantee to intimidate the ancient tribes in the Eastern Barren Territory. To be able to bring the inheritance of the great Emperor of the Void back to the world is the blessing of our G clan. Our G clan can survive from a desperate situation and even become stronger, all without the help of my little friends. Ji Changqing sighed, looking at Yunruoxi with an even more kind look. Today, if Yunruoxi had not come to the G clan and brought out the relics of the Void Emperor, I am afraid that the G clan would have been destroyed by the 4 ancient kings. During this period, if you have nothing else to do, please stay with our G clan. I would like to review the Void Ancient Sutra for you and help you answer some doubts on your path of cultivation. Ji Changqing smiled and extended the invitation. Senior, how is this possible? Yunruoxi was surprised. The Void Ancient Scripture is the inheritance given to the G clan by the Void Emperor. The inheritance of an ancient emperor. Not to mention the ancient royal family, even the ancient royal family with a strong foundation will probably be moved by it. And now, Ji Changqing actually wants to let himself read the Void Ancient Scripture? There is no need to refuse, you deserve this. Our G clan will not hide the Void Ancient Scripture alone. If there were more talented young people like you in the human race, what would be the harm if all the ancient scriptures of the Void were passed down to you? Ji Changqing said with a smile, and there was no hint of reluctance in his voice. Although the inheritance of the Void Emperor is precious, what is the most precious thing to the human race now? It is not the skills and ancient scriptures. It is the true ability of the human race in the future. The genius who holds up the sky. Ji Changqing truly hopes from the bottom of his heart that more geniuses like Yun Ruoxi will appear in the human race. For this reason, even if he gives the ancient scriptures of the void to these geniuses for free, Ji Changqing there will be no hesitation. The little girl stopped refusing. "Thank you, senior," Yun Ruoxi said gratefully. The great emperor passed down the ancient scriptures. If she could take a look at it, it would be of great benefit to her. The great Emperor of the Void took part in creation and stood at the pinnacle of the world to watch and figure out the ancient scriptures he left behind. The scriptures will be a great inspiration to Yun Ruoxi. It is even possible to use this to perfect her own ideas, break through the celestial realm, and truly walk out of her own way. Moreover, there is an ancient sage from the human race who personally answers his questions doubts about cultivation. This kind of treatment is extremely precious. Even though this trip to the Ji clan did not receive the follow-up inheritance of holy body cultivation. But with these two promises from Ji Changqing, Yun Ruoxi has undoubtedly gained the most precious thing. As expected, I did not give this inheritance of the Void Emperor to the wrong person. Qin Mu stood aside and nodded with a smile after seeing this scene. He really did not trust anyone with the inheritance of the Void Emperor. Today's Ji clan is definitely worthy of the Void Emperor's inheritance. What the Ji clan has done because, Qin Mu was completely reassured. So he no longer stayed in the Ji clan, thinking in his heart, he had left this place and came to the secret space. This time, I gained a lot from the layout of the Void Secret Realm, and I also used all the backup plans. However, the existence of the ancient Supreme Being is really a big trouble. Although this time, with the power of the Void Emperor, an ancient Supreme was scared away, but what about next time? Qin Mu muttered to himself and began to summarize the gains and losses of this secret realm arrangement. Even though he received 30 million shocking points for this secret realm arrangement, Qin Mu still remained calm and did not feel complacent. The key is to take precautions and take precautions before they happen. His character. He knew that although the layout of the Void Secret Realm was a near miss, the presence of the Supreme in the restricted area was undoubtedly a big trouble for him. Although he scared a Supreme away this time, but what about next time? In the future, the movement caused by the secret realm set up by Qin Mu will definitely become bigger and bigger. Maybe more forbidden supreme beings will be alarmed. At that time, if one really appears, they will not be frightened. Where is the restricted area supreme that retreated? It seems that I must manifest a truly powerful secret realm that can intimidate the supreme beings in the restricted areas so that they dare not act rashly. Qin Mu thought. Perhaps, the layout of that secret realm can be put on the agenda and completed and released as soon as possible. Qin Mu called up the system panel, his eyes moved across the system panel, and finally stopped somewhere. The cruel emperor, without required shock value, 50 million shock points. Introduction, the Empress has a deficiency, the Tao fruit is not complete, and is not in a perfect state. Explanation, after manifesting the Xianke Ruthless Emperor, the way to manifest the Wuqi Ruthless Emperor will be unlocked. To realize the shocking value of the Ruthless Emperor, it actually costs 50 million. Moreover, this is not the Ruthless Emperor in a perfect state. The Tao and fruit are lacking and incomplete. If you want to manifest the Ruthless Emperor in the perfect state, you must first manifest the missing Empress. However, even if he has the shocking points of the Ruthless Emperor, it is still an astronomical number. However, in Qin Mu's vision, the majestic secret realm that can deter the supreme beings in the restricted area must have a Ruthless Empress in charge. There is still 20 million shock points left, which is not too much. Qin Mu whispered to himself. He now has 30 million shock points. In other words, there are still 20 million shock points left. As long as these shock points are replenished, the grand secret realm conceived by Qin Mu can come to the world. And this secret realm will become an indestructible line of defense to deter the ancient supreme beings in the restricted areas of all parties, so that they will no longer dare to act rashly. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 97. 20 million shock points is an astronomical figure. However, for Qin Mu, it is not too difficult to accumulate 20 million shock points. As long as there are one or two more secret realms that are enough to cause a sensation in the world, the 20 million shock points can naturally be collected. The subsequent grand secret realm involving the ruthless empress can also start to be arranged. However, Qin Mu would not randomly arrange the secret realm just for the sake of 20 million shock points. The secret realms he arranged are all related to the history that disappeared millions of years ago, and are even related to each other. If it is arranged at will now, it will have a bad impact on the arrangement of many secret realms after Qin Mu. Therefore, he is not in a hurry. In the period after the Void secret realm came to an end, Qin Mu traveled throughout the eastern wasteland and even approached several supremely taboo places. He did not alarm the ancient supreme beings in the restricted area, but watched from a distance tens of thousands of miles away. During this period of time, he was also thinking about how to arrange his next secret realm. However, these peaceful days did not last long. Just half a month later, the originally peaceful eastern wasteland became turbulent again. The source of all these changes is that a son of the ancient emperor awakened from his slumber and came to the world. Eastern Wasteland, Wanlong Ridge. This is an extremely mysterious area. Thousands of peaks are continuous, majestic, like giant dragons standing across and entrenched, with the potential of thousands of dragons gathering. And in the center of those 10,000 peaks, there is a red mountain range that stretches across, majestic and endless, towering into the sky. Like a giant dragon standing here, overlooking all directions, it is extremely noble. This place is the residence of one of the ancient royal families, the descendants of the Wanlong Emperor. The Wanlong Emperor was one of the ancient emperors of the ancient world. He had ruled the world for tens of thousands of years. He claimed that he had true dragon blood flowing in his body. He was the head of all dragons and spirits, and his status and bloodline were extremely noble. Now, this resurrected ancient prince comes from Wanlong Ridge. He was the son of the Wanlong Emperor in the past, and was sealed in the divine source by his own hands. Now, hundreds of thousands of years apart, the divine source was shattered, and the son of the Wanlong Emperor walked out of the divine source and came to the world. The meaning behind the resurrection of a primordial emperor's parent and child is truly astonishing. The ancient emperor's own son was born, and all the ancient clans in the eastern wasteland were alarmed. Many ancient kings even set out in person to congratulate Wanlong Ridge. The status of Prince Wanlong is too noble and noble. In the past, when the 10,000 Dragon Emperor came to the world, all the creatures of the ancient clan in the entire universe had to bow their heads and worship him. Prince Wanlong has the blood of Prince Wanlong flowing in his body. When facing him, even the powerful ancient king must respect him and treat him with courtesy. Wanlongling, which used to be extremely mysterious, has become lively now. Many ancient kings came from all over the eastern wasteland to Wanlong Ridge to congratulate, and they even wanted to see the true face of Prince Wanlong. At this moment, in the original ancient palace in the center of Wanlong Ridge, many ancient kings gathered together, and the powerful aura emanating from their bodies shot straight into the sky, causing the clouds in all directions to disperse. However, these ancient ancestral kings who used to rule the world and look down on all directions now appear to be very low-key, scattered around the ancient palace, and their eyes are focused on the center of the ancient palace. And where the gazes of the ancient royal ancestors gathered, there was a young man standing like a demon. He is tall, with loose black hair, wearing a 10,000 dragon robes, with a proud look on his face, dragon aura rising around him, and a faint aura of incomparable nobility and domineering lingering around him. He is Longgu, the biological son of ancient Emperor Wanlong. The birth of Prince Longgu is a great blessing for our Taku clan. It's a pity that when the ancient Wanlong Emperor came to the world in the past, we were not yet born and did not have the opportunity to witness the supreme grace of the ancient Wanlong Emperor. An ancient king congratulated. Haha, I never saw the Wanlong Emperor reigning over the world in the past, but now I see Prince Longgu, who is so heroic and mighty. From this, I can guess how powerful the Wanlong ancient emperor was in the past. Another ancient king agreed. If my strength is not as good as that of my father, how can I compare with my father? Longgu shook his head gently, and the arrogance on his face slightly disappeared. When he mentioned his father, the ancient emperor Wanlong, his eyes were full of reverence. Haha, no matter what, the appearance of Prince Longgu is indeed rare good news for our Taku clan. These days, things have happened one after another in the eastern wasteland, and the human race is even more ready to take action. With Prince Longgu appearing in this world, and uniting with many royal families, he will definitely be able to suppress the arrogance of the human race. An ancient royal ancestor chuckled and told the purpose of the ancient king's coming. In addition to congratulating the birth of the ancient prince, these ancient kings came to Wanlong Ridge. Another important purpose was to hope that Longgu could be used. As the ancient prince, he united with many ancient royal families in the eastern wasteland to suppress the arrogance of the human race. Although the overall power of the ancient royal family was huge, it was not said to be scattered internally, nor was it united. In the past, only when the ancient emperor came to the world, in order to bring together the power of the ancient races. At other times, each major royal family is its own master, and no one will listen to anyone else. It is precisely because of this that there is room for human race to survive in the world. If it were the ancient race, if the clan really works together and unites together, I am afraid that the human clan will be wiped out long ago. Although Longgu is not the ancient emperor, the blood of the ancient emperor flows in his body, and he is the son of the ancient emperor. If he comes forward, there will be something big appealing power. In the past, the ancient royal family who had experienced the era when the ancient emperor Wanlong ruled the world might follow Longgu's call. By then, even a small number of the ancient royal families in the eastern wasteland would be able to unite together, and it would be enough to defeat today's the human race severely suppress them. After I was born, everything in the outside world was known. Longgu looked sternly, looking around the hall, with indescribable contempt in his voice. In the past, when my father came to the world, the human race was just like ants, lingering on. Now, hundreds of thousands of years have passed, and a mere human race actually wants to become a powerful person? Haha, how is that possible? This world has always belonged to me, the ancient races, and the human race is only worthy of being our slaves. However, the Long royal family, in these days, the human race has successively relics of the ancient emperors appearing in the world, and each human race's supreme existence can be said to be glorious and prosperous to the extreme. Nowadays, the human race even has the Emperor Dao soldiers stationed in the eastern wasteland, and they are not at our mercy like before. An ancient king said with doubts. The ancient emperor? Joke. The ancient emperor of the supreme path, who is like my father, is the true ruler of this world. Only the ancient emperor of Dao is truly supreme. Longgu's words were categorical. He had experienced the era when the ancient emperor Wanlong once ruled the world. In his eyes, the power of the ancient emperor was a symbol of invincibility. After Longgu was born, he had also heard about the ancient emperor of the human race. The rumors. But he firmly believes that everything is just false. Even if there were strong men in the human race in the past, so what? The ancient emperor is invincible. The ruler of this world has always been the ancient races from ancient times to the present. Eternal times this has always been the case. There is no room for the second voice in this world. Long Gu has already made a plan in his heart. This time he is born, he will unite all races, suppress the arrogance of the human race, and recreate the ancient king of 10,000 dragons. The supreme glory of the world. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 98. Wanlong Ridge, Wanlong ancient Prince Longgu was born, and wanted to unite the major ancient royal families in the eastern wasteland to suppress the human race. Longgu didn't even bother to hide or cover up anything. So this news just came out, and like a hurricane, it spread throughout the entire eastern wasteland in less than a day. It has also cast a shadow in the hearts of many human beings. Who is the ancient prince? The blood of the ancient emperor flows in his body, which can be said to be the most noble bloodline in the world. They are the people closest to the legendary ancient emperor. They have witnessed the power of the ancient emperor with their own eyes, and they have an extremely high status among the ancient tribes. A statue of the ancient emperor's parent and son is shown, raising his arms and shouting. I am afraid that many ancient royal families will really be moved and respond to his call. This is not just because the blood of the ancient emperor flows in Longgu's body, but also because the person standing behind him is the ancient royal family and Wanlong Ridge. This can be called one of the most powerful forces in the world. The storm is coming and dark clouds are covering the sky. Only half a day later, Longgu made some moves. He actually united the 5 ancient royal families and issued an ultimatum to the major human forces in the eastern wasteland in the name of the direct descendants of the ancient emperor. The human race is limited to ceding nearly 1/3 of its current territory to the ancient tribes within 3 days. Every year, a number of top-quality treasure sources and precious medicines should be presented to the ancient tribes. Moreover, Longgu also requested that ancient temples to commemorate and worship the ancient emperor should be built in major towns and sects within the human race. People from the human race need to go to the temple every day to worship the ancient emperor. As soon as these conditions were spread, it instantly caused an uproar among the human race in the eastern wasteland. Longgu's actions are simply to push the human race to a dead end. It's just a matter of ceding land and enshrining divine treasures every year, but you actually want to build an ancient temple among the human race to worship the ancient emperor? If this is really done, where will the ancient emperor of the human race be placed? Such actions are obviously intended to destroy the faith of the human race. If you worship the ancient emperor, you will naturally no longer be able to respect the great emperor of the human race. The faith and integrity in the hearts of the human race will also collapse. At that time, they will really become vassals of all ancient races, and there will no longer be any hope of rising. How could you agree to such conditions? The ancient royal family deceived others too much. Can the ancient emperor and his son do whatever he wants? This is almost the same for the Taigo emperor. Our human race also had a great emperor alive, who was not inferior to the ancient emperor. Longgu's words clearly indicate that he has never put the great emperors of our human race in his eyes. This condition cannot be agreed to. The voices within the human race are very fierce, and the powerful officials from all parties have expressed their opinions, saying that they will never agree to the conditions proposed by Longgu. As for the Ji clan who guards the human race's borders, they even say that as long as the ancient tribes dare to invade the human race's borders, they will try it. As long as they dare to come, the Ji clan monks dare to make it impossible for them to come back. Even if they fight to the last person, they will never agree to these conditions. However, in the face of the fierce resistance from the human race, Longgu's reaction was very indifferent. I remember that the human race in the past was even weaker than it is now, just ants and servants. It has not been long. Has the human race forgotten its status? Sure enough, without the baptism of blood, the ants will never understand their status. 3 days later, if the human race fails to fulfill these conditions, I will ask my father, the imperial soldier, to come out and work with the major royal families to bring down the human race. Tell them with blood that I, the ancient people, are the eternal protagonists in this world. Longu's response was extremely strong, and there was no room for turning around. It seemed that he wanted to imitate his father, ancient Emperor Wanlong, to suppress everything in the world with iron and blood, and aspire to be the supreme king of heaven and earth. Give up 1/3 of the territory? How much divine treasure medicine will be compensated every year? Do you want to build a temple of the ancient king within the territory of the human race and worship it day and night? After hearing the conditions that Longu proposed to the human race, Qin Mu almost laughed angrily. This Longu really dared to put forward conditions. Does he really regard the current human race as a soft persimmon that can be manipulated at will? Or is he? Do you really think that your father, who is the ancient emperor, is stronger than all the emperors of the human race and is invincible? However, after the anger in his heart calmed down a little, Qin Mu calmed down again. He clearly understood. Come on, this time Longu unites many ancient royal families to threaten the human race. It is a challenge and even an opportunity for the human race. Previously, although Qin Mu arranged various secret realms and made many great emperors manifest, which shocked the ancient races, but it is just a shock. After all, the years of millions of years ago are too far away from now. And the years ruled by the ancient emperor are engraved in the bones of these ancient creatures. Their worship and admiration for the ancient emperor of Jidot are also, it comes from the heart and is innate. This is especially true for the ancient royal family who agreed to unite with Longu this time. Therefore, for Qin Mu, this time is actually a rare opportunity. If he can take advantage of this opportunity, the shock to the ancient tribes will be replaced by fear in their hearts. In this way, for a period of time, these ancient tribes will naturally not dare to trouble the human race again. Longu, the ancient emperor's parent and son, don't you admire your imperial father and think that the ancient emperor is supreme? Well, this time, I will tell you what it means that there are people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the world. Qin Mu made a move and came to the secret space. He already had a plan in mind. This time, he will set up a secret realm and completely break the pride of all ancient races. An ancient temple for worship appears. Qin Mu's mind wandered as he thought, and with a finger, tall and majestic ancient temples appeared in the secret space. The ancient temples were connected together, with the simple and vicissitudes of life flowing through them, magnificent and majestic. Several ancient sacrificial stels are present. Appear as a piece of mixed stone. Qin Mu kept pointing, perfecting the secret realm according to his own ideas. After a long time, a grand and complete secret realm finally appeared in front of Qin Mu. Phew, most of the construction is done, now only the finishing touches are left. Qin Mu looked at the secret realm he had just created and nodded. Then, he moved his gaze to somewhere, pointed there, and shouted at the same time. Appearance, a wisp of Emperor Yetian's divine thoughts. Boom. Supreme, unparalleled vast fluctuations descend. After a moment, it returned to calm. At this time, Qin Mu just stopped with a smile. The 8th secret realm is done. He believes that this secret realm will definitely bring unimaginable shock and unprecedented fear to Longu and other ancient clans in the eastern wasteland. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 99. The 8th secret realm has been created, but Qin Mu has not released this secret realm. He is waiting for a suitable opportunity. 3 days later, in the eastern wasteland, Wanlong Ridge. In the ancient palace, Longu slowly opened his eyes, looked at his subordinates kneeling respectfully in front of him, and said indifferently. How? Has the human race still not agreed to the conditions we proposed? Reporting to the prince, the human race reacted fiercely, and it seemed that they did not want to agree. At this time, the kings and ancestors of the 5 tribes have arrived at one long ridge. They will just wait for the order from you, the ancient prince, and they will all go out to attack the human race. The ancient creature kneeling under the palace replied respectfully. Haha, the human race will not be content without blood. Longu sneered. I have informed the ancestors of my clan that I am ready to use my father's imperial soldiers at any time to fight against the human race's void mirror. Haha, many ancient kings and I have come to the human race, what can they do to resist? Only after a bloodbath will the human race know where they should be. Longu said indifferently, and then got up and walked out of the hall. Today, he will lead all the ancient kings to come to the human race to teach them an unforgettable lesson. Let them know who is the best in this land. The real master. A moment later. In one long ridge, the auras of the ancestors rose up one after another, connecting the heaven and the earth, spreading in all directions. The demon-like dharma bodies of the ancestors stood up, and the auras connected into one, causing chaos in the sky and the earth. Finally, there were actually more than 10 ancient kings who came and responded to Longu's call and gathered together. They walked forward with Longu, stepping through mountains and rivers, the majestic and terrifying Saint Aura fully bloomed, and the mighty head towards the human territory. And that direction is where the Ji clan is guarding. Ji clan, the human race frontier in the eastern barren territory. Ji Changqing stood in the void, looking into the distance, his eyes full of solemnity. He could feel the terrifying and boundless aura coming from the distance. More than 10 ancient kings. The other party is not moving very fast, and seems to be deliberately trying to bring a desperate sense of oppression to the human race. More than 10 ancient kings. Ji Changqing's brows were almost twisted into knots. Brother Changqing, this time the ancient clans are coming with a fierce momentum. I am afraid it will be difficult for you and me to resist them. A long sigh sounded, and an old man with white beard and hair actually stood in the void, not far from Ji Changqing. This person was none other than Daoshu, the ancient sage guard of the human race who had appeared in front of the demon emperor's palace. Next to Wei Daoshu, there was a figure that exuded the aura of a saint, but she was a woman. It was a human female saint with high temples, beautiful appearance, and a red palace dress. Dong. In the wilderness, besides Wei Daoshu and Ji Changqing, there is the third human saint. Wei Daoshu, you have practiced Taoism for so many years, have you lost all your courage? So what if there are more than 10 ancient kings? After killing a few of them, the others will naturally retreat in fear and disperse without attacking. The human female saint's voice was cold, but her words were not polite at all and very hot. Fairy Huoyun, after all these years, your temper has really not changed at all. Wei Daoshu shook his head helplessly. This human race female saint, Fairy Huoyun, was a contemporary of him, and the time when they became saints was almost the same. However, Fairy Huoyun had a very hot temper at the beginning, and she didn't expect it to pass. After so long, he still has this character. After killing a few ancient kings, the remaining ancient kings will naturally retreat, which is easy to say. There are more than 10 ancient kings on the opposite side, which is 3 or 4 times the number of our own saints. In this case, would the opponent's ancient king be stupid enough to come and fight you one-on-one? Wei Daoshu shook his head helplessly and did not refute. He knew that Fairy Huoyun probably meant a bit of helplessness when she said this. They are the only remaining ancient saints from the human race in the eastern wasteland. Now when the human race is in danger, even if they know they are outmatched, they can only stand up and carry the darkness and despair for the human race. You too, the ancient mirror of the void of our ancestors, even if it revives later and takes action, it can only destroy the opponent's extremely powerful imperial weapon. These dozen ancient kings still want us to resist. There are too few saints in my human race. I am a few years older than you two idiots, so I can barely be considered your senior. If you see that you can't do anything later, just choose an opportunity to escape. I don't want the remaining heritage of my human race to be exhausted here. Ji Changqing said slowly. Senior Changqing, what are you talking about? Since this junior showed up here today, he has never thought of escaping. Fairy Huoyun shook her head decisively and said. That's what I mean too. Senior Changqing, you don't need to persuade us anymore. Wei Daoshu smiled bitterly, but his voice was extremely firm. We have endured humiliation and heavy burdens for the human race for so many years, and have been hiding and retreating in front of the ancient race. But now I don't want to endure it anymore, so that the royal ancestors of these ancient races know that the ancient saints of our human race are by no means easy people. Okay, that being the case, I will no longer advise you. When the war starts, you must do your best to kill him and turn the world upside down. Ji Changqing laughed, feeling heroic in his heart. Different from last time, this time, he was not alone. There were two ancient saints from the human race fighting with him. This is enough. Distance. Long and more than a dozen ancient kings crossed the mountains and rivers, walking with a mighty breath. Hey, I feel the breath of 3 human saints in front. An ancient king's eyes flashed and he said in a deep voice. 3 ancient saints of the human race? The mantis is just a chariot, could it be our opponent? The other primordial king sneered and didn't take it to heart at all. What are the 3 ancient saints of the human race? Maybe one of the primordial kings alone can really compete with them. But now, it is the alliance of the 5 royal clans. Just 3 of them the ancient saint can only be crushed. Oh, let me see, these 3 saints should be the ultimate foundation that the human race in the eastern wasteland can possess. The human race is nothing to worry about. Longu shook his head, with some disapproval in his voice. They are just 3 ancient saints of the human race. Do they still want to stop them? If they dare to stop them, they will just kill them all, leaving the human race in complete despair. More than 10 ancient kings walking hand in hand, the scene was extremely mammoth and despairing. There were only 3 saints in the human race. How could we resist such a disparity in power? However, at this critical moment when thousands of ancient races were excited and the human race was in danger, 9 heavens on the top, suddenly a wisp of supreme aura flowed, instantly attracting everyone's attention. What? Longu suddenly raised his head and looked into the depths of the sky. He was extremely sensitive to the aura of the ancient emperor. Although the feeling was only for a moment, it was definitely unmistakable. Just now, deep in the sky, there was a faint aura of the ancient emperor. Something fell from outside the territory. A moment later, an ancient king said in shock, looking through the billowing smoke and dust, and understood the truth. Above the 9 heavens, a majestic shadow fell from the sky, distorting the surrounding void, and finally fell violently to the east. On the desolate land, the earth trembled and smoke and dust rose everywhere. It's an ancient temple. Many ancient kings cast their eyes into the billowing smoke and dust, and they were all shocked. What is behind the smoke and dust? It turned out to be an ancient and dilapidated ancient temple. I don't know how long it has been since now, and the breath of eternal time is flowing in it. In this ancient temple, the sound of Zen chanting is still heard. It is mysterious and majestic, causing the void to resonate with it. What is even more amazing is that there is an ancient existence faintly above this ancient temple. The phantom appears, as if the existence worshipped by this ancient temple is formed by the endless power of faith. In that ancient phantom, there are actually traces of the power of the Supreme Deo gathered. This phantom is, an extinct species among my ancient races, the god-killing ancient insects. Longu looked at the majestic shadow that appeared above the ancient temple with a look of shock on his face. He had heard about this ancient shadow of an ancient being. The ancient god-killing. Insect was one of the ancient gods among all races. One of the extremely powerful and iron-blooded races. They are born with extremely powerful combat power and monster talents. They like to feed on gods and are extremely terrifying. This bloodline was one of the powerful bloodlines that were qualified to compete in the extreme realm in the past. But it is a pity that this clan has never attained the ultimate level without certification, and the bloodline of this clan was extinct hundreds of thousands of years ago. Unexpectedly, there is an ancient temple dedicated to the god-killing ancient insect, which fell from outside the territory. And, the existence enshrined in this ancient temple, its phantom condensed by the power of faith, is filled with the power of the extreme, so its true body is likely to be a statue from the past who has achieved the status of the extreme. The god-killing insect emperor. The sacrificial temple of an ancient emperor fell from outside the territory to the eastern wasteland. Moreover, the bloodline of the god-killing insect has long been extinct. Therefore, the era in which this god-killing insect emperor lived, it is very likely that it is far beyond the present, and it may even come from that dusty distant time. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 100. A temple suspected to be dedicated to the ancient emperor descended from outside the territory and landed in the eastern wasteland. This is really amazing. No one in the world knows where this ancient temple came from. It may have been hidden in the depths of the boundless sea of stars, but now it fell from the sea of stars and landed in the human world. In the eastern wasteland, countless eyes were originally focused on Longu and many ancient kings, wanting to witness the subsequent battle between the ancient race and the human race. But now, this dilapidated and ancient temple fell and instantly became the center of the world, attracting the attention of all living creatures. Let's go explore this temple first, and we'll talk about the human race later. Longu stared at this ancient temple shrouded in smoke and dust, and finally made a decision. The origin of this temple is too amazing, and it may be related to an ancient emperor who has never been recorded in the world. There may be something hidden in it. A huge secret. Compared with this, the affairs of the human race are not too important and can be dealt with at any time. But they are just three ancient saints of the human race. They cannot make any big waves. After hearing Longu's words, many other ancient kings also nodded, showing expressions of emotion. Compared with the human race, they were obviously more interested in the ancient temple that suddenly fell in front of them. What happened? An ancient temple fell from the sky. In the Ji clan's territory, Ji Changqing looked into the distance with a bit of uncertainty in his tone. The temple was filled with the aura of the ancient emperor of Jida, and Longu and others had already rushed over. What should we do? Wei Daoshu said in the same surprised voice. Obviously he never thought that such a change would happen at this critical moment. What to do? Of course I went to take a look. Sooner or later, there will be a battle with these ancient kings. There is no point in continuing to wait here. It is better to go over and investigate, and if there is a chance, take advantage of the situation and take action against those ancient kings. Fairy Huoyun said very decisively. After that, she took the lead and flew towards the place where the ancient temple fell. Ji Changqing and Wei Daoshu, after a slight hesitation, also followed. Fairy Huoyun, you are right. There is no point in waiting here. Sooner or later, they will have to fight with these ancient kings. Now and in the past, the worst result is just to advance the war. In the end, the ancient clan and the human clan, everyone gathered in front of this ancient temple. Prince Gu, do you want to kill these three human saints first? An ancient king said with murderous intent in his eyes. Three ancient saints of the human race arrived together, and the atmosphere instantly became solemn. More than a dozen ancient kings were full of murderous intent, and they were thinking about whether to take advantage of this excellent opportunity to kill all three saints of the human race. However, in the face of this ancient king's inquiry, Longu, who had been pressing hard on the human race before, now shook his head with a smile and said, "It doesn't matter, it's just three ancient saints, what kind of waves can they make? It just so happens that this ancient temple may be related to the ancient emperor of our ancient clan who has never been recorded in the annals of history. Didn't the human race often have the so-called relics of the ancient emperor manifest during this period? Now that we have a Taku clan, maybe this Taku emperor comes from that dusty history. Just in time, let these ancient saints of the human race admire the power of the ancient emperor of my ancient clan and make them completely despair." Longu was in a good mood. He even felt that this ancient emperor's temple that fell from the sky was basically helping him. During this period of time in the human race, didn't the so-called relics of the ancient emperor often appear in the world? But now it is different, the relics of the ancient emperor of the Taku clan have manifested. They have not made the human race more beautiful than before. These ancient human saints are probably the most powerful force of the human race in the eastern wasteland. There is no need to worry about them now. Even if these three human races are allowed to, what if the ancient saints enter this ancient temple together? After admiring the invincible grace of the ancient emperor, these ancient saints of the human race will only become more desperate. Maybe they will also play the role of subduing others without fighting, so that the other party was desperate and timid, and did not dare to be an enemy of the ancient clan. In this way, the newly rising hopes and beliefs of the people in the eastern wasteland would naturally be shattered. After hearing Longu's explanation, many ancient kings were relieved and even deeply moved. He nodded in agreement. The murderous intention that permeated the world naturally dissipated a lot. This change made Ji Changqing and the others a little surprised. These ancient kings didn't take this opportunity to attack themselves and others. However, although he was doubtful, he did not take action for the time being. This was good news. Seeing Longu and others filing in and entering the ruins of the ancient temple, Ji Changqing, Wei Daoshu and Huoyun Ferry looked at each other without hesitation. Following them, we also stepped into this ancient temple. The ancient temple is simple and vast. Although some places have collapsed and been destroyed, it is still difficult to cover up the overall magnificence and splendor. Longu and the others, when the ancient king approached the ruins of this ancient temple, the first thing he did was to take a piece of soil from this place to determine the year. The final result excited them. This ancient temple actually had hundreds of years of history. Thousands of years of history come from those mysterious years that have been covered in dust. Millions of years ago, a supreme being from the god-killing ancient insect clan ascended to the extreme realm and ruled over all heavens and realms. All the spirits in the world created this ancient temple to worship and offer sacrifices to him. Longu smiled, feeling that he had guessed everything. They stepped into the first ancient temple. Sure enough, there was a majestic sculpture of a god-killing ancient insect. Although it was just a sculpture, it contained a hint of contempt for the world. The invincible Ji-Dao momentum. Under the sculpture, there are two ancient fonts, written in ancient characters, Yahuang. Emperor Yu, is this the title of the ancient emperor of the god-killing ancient insect clan? Longu guessed. The other ancient kings were also extremely excited after seeing this majestic sculpture. This is really an extremely important discovery. In the history of the ancient kings of all races, there may be another oldest one. The existence of the ancient god-killing insect from 1,000,000 years ago, named Yahuang. This discovery excited the ancient clan, but made Ji Changqing and other three human saints look dignified. Could this place really be a statue 1,000,000 years ago? Is it the sacrificial temple of the Taigo Emperor? Longu and the other ancient kings bowed respectfully to the sculpture, then left the ancient temple and went to explore other ancient temples. But something surprising happened to them. Other ancient temples nearby, even the complete ancient temples that were not damaged, were empty and nothing existed. However, they also made a new discovery, that is, there may have been things in these ancient temples, but in the end they seemed to be completely destroyed. Moved away, leaving nothing behind, only some ancient traces. This is unreasonable. In the temple dedicated to the ancient emperor, in addition to the statue of the ancient emperor, there should also be evidence recording the glorious life of the ancient emperor. Why is there nothing here, as if everything has been moved away? Longu's voice was full of doubts. The temple for worshipping the ancient emperor was a place to worship and offer sacrifices to the ancient emperor. In addition to the statue of the ancient emperor, there should also be existences such as murals, ancient tablets, and ancient scrolls, recording these events. The glory of the ancient emperor's life is for all living beings to look up and worship. All the temples of the ancient emperors have been like this in ancient times. Why is this place different? Until now, in addition to knowing the ancient emperor of the Jidao who was named Yahuangji millions of years ago, except, nothing was found. Keep looking. Explore all the temples. Since this place is the place where ancient emperors worshipped, there can't be only the statue. Longu said flatly. So, the ancient kings explored other temples one after another. Finally, they found something. In an ancient temple that had collapsed nearly half, there was an ancient stele half hidden among the ruins. I said it couldn't be that simple, there must be something else. Longu was excited and quickly swept away the ruins, making the ancient stele appear in front of everyone again. The ancient stele was simple and vast, standing alone among the ruins. And on the surface of this ancient stele, there were densely packed ancient inscriptions. Divine text. Found it? The deeds recorded on this ancient monument must be related to this Yahuang. Many ancient kings were excited and finally discovered something. Ji Changqing and the other 3 saints of the human race also gathered around in confusion, wanting to know what was inscribed on this ancient stele. All eyes were focused on the ancient stele. Above. The contents of those inscriptions written in ancient divine inscriptions were finally revealed in front of everyone. However, when Longu and other ancient kings just touched the first line of divine inscriptions on the ancient stele, their eyes rose. Deep sense of surprise. In the 250,000-year calendar of the Emperor of Heaven, the Emperor of the human race did not appear in the world, and Emperor Yu was born. The Emperor of Heaven has a calendar of 250,000 years. Human race. At this moment, Longu and more than 10 ancient kings were all confused. Even Ji Changqing, Wei Daoshu, and Huoyun Ferry were confused after seeing the content on this ancient tablet. Asking for a monthly ticket. Please customize.